A very good morning. Welcome for those that are just joining us from wherever you are watching NTV. This is Morning at NTV, and we are going into our Kickstarter segment, a look at the spate of gun violence within the country. Is it something to cause alarm, or are they dotted incidents that are perfectly under control, especially from the perspective of the security forces? I have two eminent gentlemen here who will be helping us understand what is going on, and I'll be introducing them shortly. But before that, let me just give you a bit of a preamble and background to this conversation. We come on the backdrop of the death of a minister, that is the Minister of State for Labour, retired Colonel Charles Okello Engola. Just days after he was brutally gunned down, there was another shooting within the locality that the minister lived in, Chanja. The gunning of social media vlogger, that is Isma Olaxis, known as one of the commentators that were talking and giving their views on just about everything as and when it happened. The circumstances of his death were brutal and brought to light the element of wanton use of guns within the community. Is it a case of criminology, or it is targeted and should be dealt with as that? Just before the nation would come to terms with that, a policeman walked into the offices of Yoka Bank along Parliamentary Avenue, and in what appeared to be, I repeat, in what appeared to be a premeditated murder, the policeman shot dead one Utman Bandari, a money lender. The circumstances of that shooting were debated in the initial stages, but the police says that so many leads have come forth, including the fact that the officer named Wabwire could be mentally disturbed. Investigations are underway. Some people are asking themselves the questions. Those who hold guns ought to protect, but now are the danger themselves to society. I'm joined by Captain Francis Babu, a renowned political commentator, and Mr. Anderson Burora, the resident City Commissioner for Rubaga Division. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I would like to begin with the RCC, because most of these happenings are within Kampala metropolitan area. Rubaga itself is well within that area. What is your take on the spate of gun violence in the city and its surrounding areas? Should we point to a deliberate campaign by criminals, or is it a case of isolated incidents of gentlemen who have failed to come to terms with the realities of their own life?
I think the two are intertwined, because the moment, even if you fail to come to terms and you commit an act that would call you or would regard you as a criminal, you still qualify to be a criminal. And I think what we're experiencing, much as we would wish to call it isolated cases, I think maybe there are some underlying issues that we need to interrogate and find out. Given the circumstances, these crimes are being committed. I don't think we should yet qualify it to be gun violence, because I think we haven't reached to that level, and maybe we just need to maybe put a few checks here and there to make sure that we deter it, have a few corrections in the command and control of the soldiers, have a few checks, stop gaps in controlling movements and tools used by officers. I think these are the few things we need to check, given the fact that we haven't experienced that much. If you look at statistics globally, you realize that actually we are doing so well. We just need to improve where there is some sort of reluctance. If you look at the two incidents, for example, one of the late minister and the one that just happened of recent here at Parliamentary Avenue,
the officer's case.
Both are incidents that are avoidable. These are incidents that could have been prevented had we had strict measures in control. Like for that of the minister, I think it was wrong because this was not the immediate bodyguard. This was a support, part of the support security. So how does someone who is part of the support security come close to the principal with a gun at a time when is not permitted? These are just a few things that we need to, that they are making us maybe look like we have gone out of space or control. And for the one at Bandari, you clearly saw that the officer at the entrance could have had this person stopped from entering the building with a rifle, who is not a security personnel of that building, who is not known to be a bodyguard of anyone in that building. And maybe this person might have lacked maybe the other extras, maybe like an armorer at the gate. If I keep your gun, where am I going to keep it? If I stay with it, how am I going to hold it? I am maybe literally alone at the entrance. There are a few challenges that maybe, which could lead one to maybe take a deaf ear about it, maybe with the in anticipation that nothing wrong can happen. So I think it's just a matter of revising a few things around us. Secondly is we have always talked about movements of officers alone who are armed. We literally usually assert it on private security organizations, these PSOs, that they are not, but even our own. We should have some sort of mechanisms through which we can also control our own from one moving alone, but also how do you move from CPS to Parliamentary Avenue and then back without a supervisor,
moreover after
without you are not deployed, you are not what, and even that you still cannot trace this person.
Okay, those are questions
so I think
that we hope the police can be able to answer.
The few things we need to correct are the circumstances, the surroundings, the environment, the nature through which ABCD is done within our own officers, and some things can be corrected.
Captain, are these isolated events?
No, they are not. But this country has had this for years. Well, one of the things that, because today we have very good social media, we've got media, immediately something happens, the whole country
knows.
Now, in the olden days, we had this. There are soldiers who were killed before. During the first regimes of this government, there's a man called, I think it was Brigadier Okoya who was killed. There's a few other people who were killed. And if you go on, there were people who were killed in this town during a certain regime. People were being taken out of shops, out of high courts. People were killed. So the insecurity has been there because of the state of our nation. We've gone through a certain certain changes that have taken place. But recently, after a spate of very good security, having a secure nation, things are beginning to happen. But they are happening because of many reasons. They are not isolated because the people in Kampala, you're jumping up and down, but think about somebody in Karamoja. The things they are going through. People playing around with guns. Look at the country. Don't look only at Kampala. Okay, we've had these incidents, but look at the nation, the whole nation, where some of these things have happened. What really happened? We've even had, when security tells you that we've had bombs here, people have thrown bombs in the rugby place. They have thrown the bombs at the Ethiopian restaurant. The children were killed in one of the technical colleges. See, we've got these insecurities in the country coming in and out, and because of many, many reasons. Now, what sometimes hurts me a bit is that people make conclusions very quickly. The other day when the minister was killed, said, oh, when the guy had killed him, he went around, shooting on a street, entered a salon and killed himself. So I asked somebody, who saw him killing himself? Nobody could answer that question. But
they had a gunshot.
No, they had a gunshot. But did he kill himself? So the investigators will tell us. What I'm saying, we need people to investigate. And our people are so good that the man who killed the gentleman at Parliamentary Avenue has already been arrested. He was arrested on the border. Now that shows you that our police can actually do a good job. Now, insecurity is going to come because of many, many reasons. Many reasons. First of all, this country has gone through different phases. You also have a lot of veterinary people, former military people in the society. You've got some policemen. And then when people go to fight, let's say they go to Somalia, when they come back, they are supposed to undergo medical checkup and be cleared. The other point is that there is a lot of problems now today because of our economy. People don't talk about that, but our economy is also impacting on a lot of us. The other one is there's sickness, and the people who are experts have told us that some people in this country are taking drugs, one form of drug or the other. And the cheapest one, of course, is weed. The question is, do some of these people who have got those guns take that kind of thing? Now, we need the experts, the investigators and all that, to tell us this, including doctors, so that we can get to know. Now, the experts in security and criminology will be able to assess and give us a picture of exactly what the problem is like. So at the end of the day, whatever happens today, especially in today's world, where news moves so fast and people get frightened, it is important that the people in charge of security also move even faster so that they can allay our fears. When you see somebody walking in a place with arrogance, with a gun, shoots a camera, shoots a person, you begin to wonder. This is not normal. It's not a normal thing. And whatever the cause might be, we don't want anybody to be killed.
Okay. RSCC, when you listen to Captain Francis Babu, the problem is more than what we see on the eye. You spoke about command and control. Who has a gun at any one time? Where is he? And what kind of mission or task has he been given? You could be privy to information more than I, especially on the workings of security. Do you think that we have too many guns out there at any one time? And that could also impact on how they are used?
No, I think there are just a few guns that are out there, but also we don't know what they are doing.
And that is the problem.
And some of those guns are as a result of our past, the circumstances of the past. Not because of the negligence of the state or government or the military or those charged to supervise them, but also given the nature of our neighborhood, the nature of also the history of this country.
And the politics of the nation.
Well, the politics would maybe not be the issue, but our history with guns in the past has not been. I think 8-10 years ago, the first disarmament campaign in Karamoja saw government recover more than 45,000 guns. Now, 45,000, now that was as a result of the willingness of the people. But that does not mean that people gave all they had. If you see the neighborhood, the whole of the northern and western corridor is beyond the borders is marred with gun violence and guns roaming around. But for our case, and using the incidents we had, save for the previous murders, these cases we've had of recent are cases that really we can investigate and understand. And these are cases we cannot regard to gun violence, as you alluded first. If you look at South Africa, as of today, about 600 people, as of today, 2023, have fallen because of gun violence. In the US, it's about 48,000. Now, this is when you can regard it to gun violence. Actually, even also mass shootings. But with our case, with the circumstances under which we are operating, with the wars around, the neighbors we have, I think we just need to find within ourselves not to alarm just because maybe, but also sometimes the alarm comes as a result of something we are not used to. Like, you are not used to seeing a gun misused, so when it happens, it raises your antennas and you're like, something is wrong here. So I think government of recent, the president directed that all guns be fingerprinted, so that if you shot someone, they can easily trace whose gun did this. And I think that has also reduced.
That conversation has been around for over a decade. I must be very specific. The need to be able to do surgical investigation by knowing whose gun this is, by simply also examining the bullet.
Yes.
Yeah, I do not think we should still be at a point where the president is praying that is rolled out.
No, he's not saying that it was rolled out, and has actually been. Every now, whoever acquires, all government guns have been fingerprinted, and those in the hands of the private.
Okay, very shortly, I'll come to Captain so he can help us address the sequence of cause and effect, especially when it comes to the cases of official gun-wielding men and women, the policemen and the soldiers.
But I just want to tell the RCC something.
Okay.
There are people within within the armed group that sell guns.
Within the military and the security
and
agencies that sell guns.
They are there.
That sell.
They hire out guns.
They sell them.
Okay.
They actually sell them. And some of them have been actually they've been arrested. Now the whole point, who do they sell these guns to? And normally the guns that you find, for example, I think one of the people who was killed recently, they found out the gun belonged to a certain, they could use the gun to trace the person who used it. So that is working. But the point is, we still have people who sell guns who are in the security forces. And that one we need to investigate even a little bit more.
Have you helped the police with some of this information?
No, not me. No, the police knows.
Okay.
Actually, it's the police that told me.
Because I would be in for a call after the show, and
No.
Can
you can. Some of them are even in remand.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right. Let me bring you to what I talked about, the sequence of cause and effect. We are not criminologists, neither are we sociologists, but we need
or
to...
even psychologists.
Yeah, we need to have our surface area understanding of what could be the problem when officers act the way they act, and society is quick to point to what could be the cause, because there is speculation. In the first incident of the minister, there was speculation around pay.
Conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theories around pay. And then the latest at Parliamentary Avenue, it was a case of stress, and mental illness. Now, that is something we cannot
You need experts.
Yeah, we need experts for that. When the police fails to rein in by way of either failing to orient officers or understand what they could be going through, that is on the police. Yeah, we should be able to get the agencies and find out what is being done about critical aspects of welfare and well-being, especially mental. Do you think this is a crisis?
Why don't we start with the economy?
There you are.
Why don't we start with the economy and the word called poverty? What has that got to do with this? I mean, this is something within our ambit. We can look at it.
Yeah.
Poverty. And who are these people who end up in the police and the military? they sacrifice to join. They're very, very important people in our society. The president said something which used to be in the past. Military men and policemen usually are recruited, and they are given a certain salary to look after their families, and their welfare is very, very highly looked at. The next thing that, of course, when you look at that one, you ask yourself a question. With our type of economy, where the money is losing value every day, the money you give to somebody, anybody, it doesn't matter, even if it is not the military man, what's the meaning of that money tomorrow? So if the economy is not controlled, it will affect people's well-being. And when that happens, a lot of things, people get affected in different ways. All right?
There are the strong ones, there are weak ones.
There are strong people and weak ones. Now, the president said something that in most military, for example, even in the United States, they have special shops for military people. For example, they used to call them NAFI stores. Those I knew. Yeah. That's Navy, Army, and Air Force.
That's right.
Now, they would buy things at a tax-free level and subsidized. They would get food to feed their families. So all these things are questionable. Do we have these facilities? The next facility, they've got children also. They've got wives and children. They're human beings. They've got even human rights. Are we giving them what they're supposed to have? It's good to give them all those so that they can do their job. Their welfare. Do they live well? We had a force of 3,000 people when NRM came. We have 43,000 policemen. We have 46 to 50,000 army personnel. Now, how do we look after these people? I think these are all questions. Then we have organized crime. Don't underestimate organized crime. We have wicked people in every country. And those ones we now have to find out, who are they? Because you talk about these things and you don't, maybe there's something in the background which is more than this.
I will come to organized crime, the one that explains the kind of shooting that saw the social media vlogger Isma Alexas life taken. But keeping it with what we see as a mainstream case where, of course, police should be able to quickly come to terms with knowing what the problem is. The spokesperson for Kampala Metropolitan Police spoke about the need to reorient officers in gun procedure and loan financing. Let me first leave loan financing aside and stay on gun
Don't
procedure.
start with the policemen, start with the members of parliament.
Well, events happened at Parliamentary Avenue, so I think as we go on the discussion in the days to come, members of parliament will find themselves also in the spotlight. Gun procedure, handling. The police seem to suggest that the officer perhaps didn't know how to handle the gun. And that was a bit unfortunate.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And you can't have a police spokesperson,
You know, some statements
saying
sometimes.
that the policeman who was trained and passed out
And is guarding.
who has been in service and is guarding, he didn't know how to hold a gun. You see, most people are trying to connect mental illness or the state of our mental health of the officers to the crimes that have been committed. But also we can talk about how does this come about. Mental health is as a result of so many challenges, and the majority of them actually may not be even financial. Some may be personal, some may be domestic, some may be something else. If I had an opportunity to visit Butavika a while ago, and actually I realized that it was full of the well-to-do people, the well-to-do children of the rich, children of maybe the elites, who have nothing to do with struggling for food, but they are struggling with drugs and alcohol and other things. So sometimes the state of health is not as a result of your financial constraints. I have an opportunity, given my job, I interact with the community and the officers. I have in so many times reconciled officers and some people in the community who have had issues.
Okay.
And majority of them come as a result of either relationships, girlfriend, boyfriend. Some of them are going through certain things and they have no one to talk to. At work, the distance between them and the distance between them and the seniors who they are meant to talk to is so wide that they sometimes come for duty, but at work they don't have someone to talk to. So they end up using the means within their reach to make sure that they sort their challenges. That is another challenge we need to look into.
The challenge you have right now is that we have to go for a break.
Okay.
And when we return, we shall continue this conversation, especially looking at the psychosocial aspects that could be, well, we could blame them for some of the actions that are going on. But there is also the issue of organized crime. How is the police, the army, and all attendant security agencies dealing with that? Because it's also a threat. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, you're welcome. You are watching Morning at NTV, the Kickstarter. We're discussing the spate of gun violence in the country. And on the show, I have seasoned commentator, Captain Francis Babu. I also have the resident city commissioner for Rubaga Division, Andrew Brora, to help us understand. Anderson, rather. My apologies for that. Anderson Brora. When the vagaries of broadcasting take over, sometimes we find ourselves in murky waters.
So I had something I wanted to conclude with.
Yeah, please do before I can ask.
We also need to look into, some people are jumping into conclusions that we need to review the salaries of officers, but you see government is so wide that you have about 480,000 public servants. That if you look at police, the army, you need to look into the judiciary, the teachers, the doctors are striking every now and then, and you cannot take one route leaving the others. But also that is a recurrent commitment that you must go into, well knowing the state also of your economy. It is not about going for what you really want, but it must be in a position to be supported. So to me, what I think we need to look into, some things that have to do with development. All barracks have sounding hospitals, have schools in barracks, like it used to, you have Nakasongola, there's another school here, there's another school in Jinja. We have schools for officers where their children can go without competing with the public, with the private sector. Then also, if you improve that, you need to look into shops. Really, someone who spends 12 hours a day at job with the limited salary, without allowances and what, you cannot be going to the same market, going to the same shop, going to the same school, going to the same hospital. That alone breaks their nerve, and they will use what is within their means. So sometimes it is not that they do it rightfully or willingly or out of context. It's the demands, the needs that force some of the crimes. We are talking about these shootings, but we are not talking about extortion, which is also rampant.
Extortion, blackmail.
Extortion, blackmail. Someone will follow up a case that is inexistent. An officer will see something very small, maybe a minor traffic offense, and they want it exaggerated. So some of these things actually are way more than we are trying to look at them now. But also we need, if we are to talk about the state of mind of people doing these other crimes, my friend, let's look at also the state of mind of the corrupt. Yes, the state of mind of the corrupt. If I can sign a deal that is going to deprive one of their lives, like for example a hospital or a road or something that is going to have an effect on the public, and I have not killed Babu, I have not killed Anderson, but I have killed their livelihood, I have affected their lives. Am I also in the rightful state of mind? So we are going to look at these ones whom we are talking about,
Okay.
but so many people have murdered by the decisions they have made, by the decisions they have chosen to enrich themselves.
A very good point there.
Those people also, we need to look into their state of mind.
It brings to the fore a scenario where an official in the Ministry of Health has to disburse 2.5 billion to health centers in far-flung areas and chooses not to, and then the next day the wife or the son or the child finds themselves escorting a friend to a funeral or kwanjula, anything, and then there's an accident, and the health center that should have received part of the 2.5 billion didn't receive that money, and the son, the daughter, has nowhere to be taken for first aid, and then there is a death that occurs. People don't actually locate that the cause could have been the fact that he didn't sign up that money or chose not to direct it there. But the discussion is wide. I don't want to go into that right now because we have a lot of time and days to come. We can always tackle each. For now, I want to go back to the issue of the shops. You called them?
They were called NAFI stores.
NAFI stores.
Just that was Navy, Army, Air Force.
Let's keep it within the context of Uganda. The military, the police, they have a different name for it. Personally,
this was British.
Yeah, my father worked in the military during Idi Amin regime.
I can say that's why you have good suits. You like that, don't you?
Talk about being taken unawares. Now the whole issue is down to the fact that some of the items that we grew up seeing, whether in the kitchen, even the living room, were items that were bought from the military shops. They were bought before I was born, and they are still in the house in Butaleja. And that tells you that perhaps if officers are able to spend once on kitchenware and not be disturbed by that, then perhaps they can use that money for something else. Just take us through how it works and whether we have the means right now. Can our economy stand establishing shops for the military?
Oh yes. The problem, and I will repeat this one, unless if we get hold of our economy in a very strong way so that we can control it.
Okay.
As long as that economy is not controlled, it will affect everything to do with welfare. You're talking about, you're now asking me about subsidizing the people who are in the security forces, how we can help them. The question is, can our economy stand it? And this is what we have to, and then somebody say, oh, but you've been there for 40 years, nearly 40 years. What have you done? But it's nothing to do with the 40 years. It is the global problem which is affecting us here also. Then you look at Uganda. What do we have to get our money from? What's the level of our salaries? I mean our taxes and so on and so forth. Now, looking at all this, one then sits down and says, wait a minute. Until you do that economy, no matter what you do out here, if I gave you a salary today, increased it. I've been hearing doctors want small salaries, and science teachers 4.5 million, and so on. So it's okay, it's good, but after some time, if we don't control the economy, that money will have no value because everything they're using that money for will have gone up. And the more you do that, even in the economy, the economists will tell us, the more you do that, it also affects the economy itself.
That's right.
So there are many things our leaders have to do it. And by the way, whilst you're talking about the security forces now, you talk about the whole country, even the leaders in this country. We are all watching. And all this, like I told you, social media, we are having media now, we are getting information, 1,000 information, everybody knows what is going on. And therefore when they see the point he brought a few minutes ago about corruption, corruption also affects the system.
It does.
To me, you keep on talking about killing. But corrupt people, I think, are worse than even killers. Because somebody takes medicine for children, somebody takes medicine for
they kill in bundles.
You are killing people. You know, then you take things for children to go to school. You are destroying the kids. And you take things for, maybe you steal the money for these security people.
You take Mabati for the Karamajong.
No, that one is a little bit small. But the whole point is.
Why would you dismiss it the way you are?
I dismiss it because whoever did this is a nikumpump, as far as I'm concerned. So let us go to something a little bit much more serious.
Okay.
The corruption we're talking about is not this corruption; it's the big corruption. Where I was reading the other day, the equipment in Mlago, all those fantastic equipment for chest X-ray, for what people are stealing parts in them and selling them outside the hospital. And these are the best equipment you have in the country. Huge sums of money are paid.
Taking one segment of the piece makes it completely useless, unable to do anything.
That's right. So I'm just giving you that corruption is another thing this country has to look at very seriously. Now, to go back, I'm extremely sorry for the gentleman who was killed at on parliamentary event. It really hurt me because I saw it and it was disgusting.
Very grisly.
And at the same time, that Chambers belongs to his grandfather. Those are Ugandans who have been here. This is not somebody who came here to do business. Second, when I listened to this officer who was killed, I was so disappointed. Such a nice man. Everybody gave, you know, he was a nice man generally, through and through. So when you lose people like that, of course it hurts. But there are many reasons why that can happen. And if we don't control it, and quickly, it will affect our people. Yes, they were giving how people should behave with the guns and so on and so forth. We know how they should. There are certain standards. They were not followed. That one they will find out when they have done the investigation. But at the end of the day, our people are very frightened, Ugandans today. Then you get the organized crime.
Yes, I was just coming to that. When you talk about fright, the real fright is not with or brought about by the officers we know who hold guns, but it's for those that are not supposed to be holding guns and they hold them. They are angry, they are poor, they are agitated, they are going after the settling of scores, and it's rampant. How is as RCC, I'm sure you do get yourself a chance, either you're privy to some of these security briefings for the city or imitations of those briefings. How is the country dealing with what is no doubt a bigger threat than welfare or even the state of mind of the officers that we have?
No, you cannot attribute organized crime to officers or to statutory officers. That is another thing. Organized crime is usually as a result of crimes or criminals plotting or using it as a livelihood. So the issue of organized crime is within security forces is sometimes specific to individuals, and those individuals in most cases, yes, you can have those hiring guns. That is also part of the processes of organized crime. You can have errant officers within the system. Yes, that is also true. But largely, organized crime is usually within a sect, within society. You see, crime is one of the superstructures that form society. Like you have media, you have business people, you have doctors, you have teachers, you have lawyers, you also have criminals at the same time. So if we are to tackle the issue of organized crime, you can relate it to so many other things. If we are talking about errant officers, if we are talking about officers participating in crime, also that is, we need to find how to link it with the current trends. The death of the minister has a unique component in it. The death of the Indian man also has a different component of it. And both of them, you can link them to frustrations and non-organized crime. Or as because the other one, Honorable was saying that who saw him killing himself. Yeah, people saw him because he told the people in the salon to get out. He remained alone inside the salon. So it is evident that there is no ghost that could have pulled the trigger and disappeared. So he killed himself.
The technicalities of investigation.
This one.
Sometimes they are laughable, but it's a link that has to be.
The one of Wabwire, he came. Specifically, you can see
it was premeditated.
Yeah, it was premeditated.
However, allow me introduce something that you could be aware of. In the aftermath of the shooting at Roger Chambers, the retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, Asan Kasinje, tweeted, and I would like to have the producer reproduce that tweet for us so I can read it for us. I'm sorry to say this line by the Cape MP PRO that number 67029 PC Wabwire Ivan is mentally sick complicates the work of the CID to pin him for murder and his subsequent conviction if charged. The PRO should have promised an investigation that would also focus on medical examination to ascertain his mental status. Saying that he's mentally sick complicates police's own case. In short, investigations are over. There is absolutely no case to answer.
Hassan shouldn't worry. One, CID has no authority to declare anyone mentally sick. That is the role of a doctor, a qualified, they call them pathologists, they call them what?
The psychiatrists.
Psychiatrists.
Yeah.
Secondly, the CID can only, prefer cases. But it is the state attorney to determine the cases that should be, like, this person should answer to. So still, even if the PRO said this, there are other stopgaps to check that and qualify it.
Captain, when the madness of an entire nation disturbs a solitary mind, is it enough to say a man is mad?
The what?
When the madness of an entire nation disturbs the solitary minds, is it enough to say a man is mad?
No. I've got a little bit of a problem. A lot of us are going into areas we don't understand. Whenever there is this kind of thing, that part of medical treatment, medical examination will be done once somebody is arrested. And the people who are investigating, they are trained to investigate. They go through procedures. But a lot of our experts, I call them like quack doctors.
Oh my God!
People are saying all sorts of things about this.
You mean quack commentator doctors?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. When you say quack doctors, it's a bit.
When you say quack doctor, it's somebody who is doing something which is. But you see, here are people who are. But I wanted to say something. I've got to get my brother here to remember there's something called rogue officers. Rogue in the sense that even the president of this country said in the police there are some people who are not very good.
There is kaukumi.
That's the word which was used. Then there is another word called greed in this country. Now, when you talk about this, one needs experts also to look for this, that there are people who do this. Now, organized crime should be very careful. It uses money.
A lot of money.
Yeah, and people in other countries, they have even infiltrated judiciary, they have infiltrated government, they have infiltrated people. So you cannot sit there.
Is that the mafia?
No, mafia is something from Italy. It came from Sicily. It is their word.
That is their word for
we tend to adopt it, but organized crime is a much more better word. Mafioso, which is from Italy, is a little bit more complicated because it goes for many years, and it's still there. Now here we have people who get involved in those things. They infiltrate. And they're there. They're just wicked.
They are known.
In society, we have wicked people and good people. And the wicked, they're small. It's a small, but they control quite a vast amount of power in the sense that they use money, to do whatever it is. And it's very unfortunate because generally Africans, the African people are very nice people. The docility and whatnot is very well known. But we've got this new group that has come up, which has got a little bit of this roguerism I'm talking about. They are rogues, and they are both not very simple. They are very, very, very smart. They've got the money, and they can do all sorts of things.
Okay, let's have the RCC take us through what ought to be some of the measures undertaken, especially within your locality, to be able to halt the rampant crime. In cases like the murder of Isma Olaxis, we were told reportedly that the killer had the time to come and ascertain whether the target had actually died. It was so surgical to the extent that the driver apparently was unharmed in any way. That speaks to the fact that there was sufficient time for anybody, including the security within the area, to act. But somehow there was no action. What is the security infrastructure in areas or your locality in Rubaga? How do people respond to such acts? If gunfire has been heard from one end, how quick is the next police post expected to act? Are there people who, before the police acts, who have the capacity to engage?
Well, there are several measures. One, I don't expect civilians to respond to gunfires. That one would be
disaster itself.
Would be disaster itself. It can lead to so many victims. That is one. Two, it depends on the hours through which the crimes have been committed. There are hours where the police is concentrated. There are hours when the police is spread. There are hours when it is hard to respond. Because police does not respond spiritually. It responds physically. And maybe the mobility, the mobility to enable them to reach, maybe the distance, but also, as we are talking about organized, someone can shoot you here because I'm told they use the firearm pistol.
Use a pistol.
Yeah, and
according to the police.
Yeah, it will walk normally past by you without even knowing or detecting, because maybe they have calculated very well their moves and how to do it. So I think what is important here is, one, we have to, I had a suggestion a while ago. One is to make sure that we have so many eyes around. So many eyes, some of it is maybe have cameras, both government and private cameras, to help us to trace. That is one. Two, have to do a lot with the fighting darkness, which is also another basic but important. Street lighting. Yeah, street lighting, buildings, and because this also gives one hard time to commit or do anything because of the visibility. But also what is important, you see, the president had a while ago, some years back, suggested that Ugandans should be introduced to be sensitized about the gun.
And that effort,
yeah, to know the gun. If you look at the case at Raja Chambers, had the people in that room been sensitized about the gun, that murder could have not happened.
What do you mean? What could they have done?
That is another thing.
Just take us through a scenario. Let's understand. It could help.
He shouldn't have entered with a gun.
One, he shouldn't have entered with a gun.
The officer on the door made that mistake.
Yes.
But
also, you see, if you look at the video,
the way they dashed out was
if
enough.
You look at the video,
somebody cooks and
if that is a close range, that is one. Two,
but he came back.
This is certain. It's a close range. This is an AK. It's a big rifle.
It's a big rifle,
which can easily be disrupted. But also the gun, the guy behind the officer,
That gentleman's feet froze.
That's what I'm saying. It's because
And they
he
walked
has
out
no awareness. He has no awareness about
For 15 seconds, the guy froze.
Yeah, so,
And
but
then he later
you cannot
realized
cock a gun before me
Yeah.
or before anyone who has the awareness, and nothing is done. So that was why the president
Allow me
has suggested that
Buyoya is a ninja.
Brother.
I'm not
allow me ask a question. Hey, my guys at the shops and my cobbler will say, Kambuzenga fala. What would the guy who was behind the officer, what could he have done?
That's a whole wrong.
What could he have done?
I'm telling you, it's a whole.
Get hold of the guy? The moment he walks?
It's like now me putting behind me that camera. I say Uganda operate that camera. I don't know, but the guy behind it. So this sensitization through Muchaka and patriotism actually exposed so much about the guns, the incidents, the scenarios, and the likes, which is something that was fought highly by some elements who are saying that the government was militarizing the population.
All right.
And I think it has a lot to do with yes, awareness is important. Self-defense is important in most cases where you are alone and you have to get out of the situation.
Okay.
So that room lacked that sort of awareness. Also, but also, let me tell you this. Let's learn to install management in institutions and businesses. You cannot be a director of a finance. I'm sorry to say this, but I think we need to talk about it. And you have direct contact with the clients and what. I think there should be some levels that at level of this gentleman, he needed to have some levels of engagement before him.
Okay, it's
very
difficult to determine the structure of operations for any one business.
So those structures of operations,
many sole proprietorships.
Let's wait for the investigation.
Yeah, investigation shall come through. But to still stay on the issue, the issues that the RCC has been tackling, when you look at Muchaka and the need to sensitize people about guns, what we have right now is a two-edged sword, where there are elements within society who know how to use the gun, and in cases when incidents are not or do not involve police officers or the army, people are shot and the suspects are never seen. The police comes up with a lot of arrests, and then it begins to look like it's a coordinated attempt to subjugate a certain population, and there's that talk, but that is again a discussion for another day. When people know how to use the gun and still don't know how to react when a gun is used, aren't we?
Let's sit down. What is going on, the insecurity becomes a nuisance to a nation like ours. It's a nuisance. Now we've got to find an answer. Now, he was talking about different things. Today we have two major things which are very, very important, apart from what you're talking about. We have terrorism, which is an international thing. Yeah. And it's also national.
It's a global phenomenon.
Okay? Then you talked about organized crime. Organized crime, people who do illegal things. There are people who trade in illegal things, they do dirty things, they steal, they do all sorts of things. That's illegal crime. Then you have assassinations, which are done by people who are disgruntled. So you have a situation, this becomes a nuisance in a country. Now, when you talk about Muchaka, that you're talking about something very simple. Do we need national service in this country?
Yes.
Do we go back and look at our friends in Europe and everywhere? Do we need a national service so that our people are brought up to speed? The other thing that we can talk about...
National service is when at a certain point, for example, after university, somebody first serves in the military.
Correct.
All right.
A national service, it can be done in many different ways. In Nigeria, they still have it. In Tanzania, they have it. In Kenya, they have it, but it's a little bit small. But we need to think about it. So, you're talking about a nuisance in this country. How do we handle it? And you're now talking it at a very high level. These other things you people are talking about are for experts to investigate, to do whatever it is. But now, do we need to have a national service in this country? And the reason I'm talking about this, we're also going to talk about character. Do our people, even the educated, very highly educated people, do they still have character? Do we still have the character to like our nation and therefore be able to respect ourselves? So, national service...
Captain, that's a debate on a value system.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. Because you are talking about a new sense of people being killed, a new sense of, you know, all these things we're talking about. Now, the question is, what do we need to do as a nation? And I think that's the question you're basically asking. Don't be just simplistic about mchaka.
Okay.
That was just the beginning of a national service.
All right. We have to go to Namugongo very shortly, so we're going to have to wrap this up. But let me wrap it up on the point of a national value system. In the last 3 weeks, we've seen people on social media go about ranting and some celebrating the death of certain citizens. And then we've had government officials come out in public and are astounded by what is happening. But earlier, the RCC spoke about the fact that the corrupt are killing. Is government failing to listen to feedback and quickly judging people as being celebratory when it comes to people's death? When you hear people do that, shouldn't you listen to the feedback and understand that they have a particular message they are sending when people go on social media to celebrate death?
I think that is a two-way. First, you need to ask yourself, who are the people celebrating? Because also, if you don't ascertain that, you'll end up missing the point.
Okay.
The point we have is we have a very big group that has for long not followed politics. And it came in with the sentiments of art, of music and that. And I think things work that way. Secondly is that we need to have ideology. Ideology, we need to have the belief to tackle how we think and how we react and act when we meet certain points.
Okay.
And lastly, what I think is important is that we can disagree, but also we can agree to disagree and remain with the responsibility of decorum. What is also at stake, yes, I agree there is failure to listen, but also give feedback, or even listen to the feedback that you're talking about. I remember a while ago when we had the road and health exhibition on Twitter, to me I was happy that people are speaking out. But there are those who were offended that people were speaking about it, which was unfortunate.
Well,
but
it's a point of view.
Yeah, but it is important to note that feedback is key. And if you don't give feedback as a government, if you don't listen to people as a government, then you cease to be a government.
All right. Captain, wrap this up for us, especially in the value system.
It's very difficult to listen to a night dancer who enjoys to see somebody dead. I am sorry, I am not going to be kind. When anybody dies, we should be sympathetic.
Good.
We might have a reason that he shouldn't have died. We might have a reason that people who must now learn from that death, but we should not celebrate somebody's death in that manner.
All right.
So we have people here called night dancers. They wait until somebody dies and they celebrate. Please. That's not our culture.
Captain Francis Babu, many thanks for the perspective on gun violence and the state of security in the country, and many thanks to you too. Anderson Burora, the resident city commissioner for Rubaga Division.